To happen, just make sure to talk to us. We can update your project, your configuration, so we can include some information. Big one for some of this financial data is city revenue or county revenue. So we can include that information so we can then put that in the report. And then thirdly, we offer data warehousing. So I'll get more towards that. Three main types of reports we have: form letters, comment letters, and custom reports. Your form letters, these are your standard mail merge documents. You just click, run, generate, it appears. Think of these are going to be your permit invoices, your permit placards, and your payment receipts. It's just a standard document. You click and it generates. Then you have your comment letters. These are going to be similar to your form letters, except you have the ability to select comments from categories you create, and that will populate on the letter. So think of plan review letters, inspection reports, and your notice of violation letters, where you can just have words that will dynamically populate depending on what you select. Then we have our custom reports. These are going to be your spreadsheet-like reports that we can export into PDF, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, CSV, the list goes on. It's a really good view of a tabular data for analysis, and you can also use it to create bulk letters. So instead of having to go to a slew of projects and individually generate a letter on each project, you can have a report that generates all the letters for the certain projects, certain amount of projects. We're able to see a really good use case for this in food establishment renewal letters. You don't have to go through each project. You can have them set, and we'll just generate a renewal for all of them implementation. KPI reports. I'm sure this is a word that has come up more and more, that your maybe city managers here and your councils have asked about it. For those unfamiliar, KPI, a key performance indicator, it's defined as a measurable value that demonstrates how well an organization achieves key objectives. It boils down to how well you do stuff, how well you do it. So in this case here, we're able to, this is a KPI dashboard report that we use for local jurisdictions for their fleet. So it's easily, you can look at this very easily. You're able to answer a question. You're able to see how many open versus closed projects you have, workloads. Now answer the question, are we keeping up with this current workload? So if you're closing more than you're opening, you have room to grow. But if you see that you're opening more than you're closing, you might need to reallocate some resources. You can also see the most common used time and material. So how many what parts are we using? So in this case, it's, you can then say, should we order more or less? If we have something that's constantly running out, it's constantly being used, you might want to order more at once instead of, you can adjust your amount. This will give you that, a lot of that key information that you can make those data-driven decisions. A really popular one, especially for more permitting planning, how the plan review performance report will really give you a deep dive into where the bottlenecks may be in your review process. So is it in your first reviews that are taking too long? Or your second reviews taking too long? Is it the building versus the transportation reviews? This plan review performance report, particularly the city of Kerrville, you're actually able to break it down.
Top button.
You're actually able to break it down to see. So here it's showing you the actual review, how long that takes, and then it'll actually break it down by department. So there's several ways you can break it down to then know how you can make your decisions to better achieve your goals. So if you want to complete your reviews in 7 days, if that's your goal, and you're completing your building once in 6 days, driveway in 8, you can then possibly reallocate resources towards your driveway reviews and that number 7. We offer a vast amount of financial reports. At their core, we're tracking the same money, how much, make sure the totals add up. But they're a lot of times grouped by different ways, depending on what your accounting subscribing fees grouped by GL code, the person who received them, the type of when you receive them, so we're talking check, cash, online, the type of permit it went to, if it's a commercial, residential. You can break it down, you can export it in any format. It's really good for if you have use any software that uses encode, we can make an encode friendly export file. And whatever service you use, if you give us a screenshot of it, we can match it. It's, as long as we provide that little screenshot, we can then match that and it'll be able to export to other services. These are just a few other common ones. We have a cashier and the date and the common balance report. For these reports, the only one thing I would probably add is that if you've met some accountants in your life, if there's any report that needs to be right, it's this, it's these numbers report. So with that, if you're experiencing any issues with that, please don't hesitate to email our support and we can actually have a call, discuss, make sure the details of this are right so that you won't have any type of one-off, it's here off, it's there off. We can have a complete look, make sure it's being tracked properly. I'll go into the best way to send a report request later in. We offer data warehousing now, so all the data that is tracked in MGO, so data we can now export it to you via REST API. So this is something that would most likely be set up by your IT department, but we can have a link that, depending on what information you want, what parameters you want, we can have all the information set up as an API, and you can then take that information, do with what you like. You can have your own data warehouse just for storage purposes, so you can review it in the future. But then, a good use case that we see here, so you see the article, they're able to take their information out of MGO and layer it on top of their GIS service. And so you can click on an address and you can get project information from MGO. You can also use it for some ad hoc reporting on your side and for any type of open records requests. So if you have on your site, you can have a report. With the data that you took, you can make a report that will then display it for the public to be able to see information such as how many new residential buildings do we have, how many new commercial buildings do we have. We're talking code enforcement. I want to see the properties with the most violations. Or if I'm buying a new house, I want to see how many violations from this house, on this property. So you can really, there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do with this data. I believe Ken talked about this a bit earlier with automation. We can actually set up these reports to be automatically sent to certain emails. They don't have to be used in the system. This is really good for your appraisal, your council and appraisers, and your city managers. People who don't necessarily need access to the system as a whole, but need that data or need that information. We can have it set up so it can run daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever period you need, it will just appear in that inbox. You don't have to depend on someone sitting there clicking at the right time. This is one neat little ability that we have. If some of these reports where you have multiple users using it, you don't always need the same columns. If you have a very big, for instance, a current report, and I need it, I don't need the comments column, or you need it, you don't need the work type column. We can actually now toggle filtering columns. You can select what columns you actually want to see on the report, and then take off the ones you don't. It's a new feature. It's been incredibly useful, and the people who use it, and I definitely encourage you to ask about it and see how it can implement in your reports. Additionally, without that, you can also put this within Excel, and you can filter columns using the data tab, the filter button. This will allow you just to, if you pull all reports, but you just want to see a certain type of work type of report. You just want to see single family permits or multi-family permits, townhouses. You can then, without losing all the other information, you can filter it, get that information, and expand it, and still have it, just for easier data visualization. Something we have coming soon in MGO Connect is the ability to group reports and order them how you would like. So this way, you can, instead of just having them listed in some order, you can group them to be potentially, if you want it by period, daily, weekly, monthly, or even by position. You can have permit director reports, planning director reports, assistant director reports, just so if you just take a glance at it, if anyone wants to take a glance at their account, you can easily see what reports may pertain to you. This is the big one, how to request reports. All report requests should go to support@mygovernmentonline.org. This is our support line. While line 1 support line is 20. So they have a much better job of keeping track of all your requests, making sure no balls get dropped. Just it's important, if you're looking for a report, just let us know what data needs to be displayed, any filters that need to apply to it, and the users that need access. For a form letter, just your letters, if you can just give us a screenshot, a sample document, send us a PDF or a screenshot of it, and then whatever project type it needs to be in. If it's a permitting document, if it's a code enforcement document, if it's planning, fleet, public works, that's what's going to be important for the letter. For special cases, so we're talking highly complex reports that maybe an email just doesn't do justice, or expedited reports. You need this report in 3 days, just to give an example. Still email support. In any case, the primary person is support, but this is where you can CC Rob, our team leader, our support team leader. That will notify him. He can then put that where it needs to go, get you in touch with the right person. Expedited, we can see how we can get that done quickly, and if we need to set up a meeting with a tier 2 analyst to discuss it, because it's just the complexity of it, we can do that. Additionally, you can CC me as well, on top of CCing Rob. That will alert me. I will be able to get in touch with you, see if we need to set up a meeting, expedite, or so on and so forth. Now we have our, I call it our reports menu. The office call it McDonald's report menu. You can now point to any report from the menu and say, I want that report, and then just change what you need on it. So for instance, you may want an outstanding plan reviews report, hold the work type, and add designation. So this was really good to show it's constantly evolving and expanding, but we have several use cases for every type of report or letter you may need. I'm going to kind of scroll through them in the background. I'm not going to go through each one of them. But here you can see almost every report that you could think. And of course, I'm sure there are definitely reports that may not be on this list. But the vast majority, of course, we can talk about those in emails, but most of these you can now have as a reference. You want a permit invoice, give me a 11A, just like that. I want to have a barcode on it. You can reference it just like that. And this whole reports menu is accessible now in your account, on the project tab. You have the report request example, so that whole list